search engine land article from Danny, and saying this would be a terrible idea, and yeah, it made me think. I mean, God, they're spending a sixth of their cash hoard. Woo!
Yeah, that's a big gamble.
That is big.
We'll see. Next question. So, this is from Luke. So what would be the recommendations if I have 4 cities to rank for places within one account? Do I use the same URL or have different URL for each page? Should the URL have the city keyword in each? So I think this is going back to this idea about multiple locations for the same business.
Right. So if you have multiple locations, my preference, generally speaking, would be to have those separate pages on your website, or separate websites if that's your preference. Probably separate pages on your website where essentially you're saying, this is my Wallingford ice cream shop, this is my Capitol Hill ice cream shop, etc. Right? These are my different locations, and then having you got a photo of the different location, you got the address, you got the phone number, etc. You can put that in the title and the name of the business. I like it a bunch because not just for SEO purposes, but because it means that it'll be so much more obvious to people who are doing those searches that they've got the right one.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And this is kind of asking the same question with a slightly different angle. So for businesses with hundreds of locations nationwide, do you feel that having a local page, or excuse me, a location page, so like a places page in Google, is important for each business on the corporate website? So excuse me, let me start that question over again because I confused myself. For business with multiple, perhaps hundreds of locations nationwide, do you feel that having a location page for each business on a corporate website will impact places rankings? So FedEx is a great example.
Yeah, FedEx is a good example, right? So they have all these different ones, and you can see all of them go to the same URL. Now, FedEx Office, I'm almost sure, basically specifically uploads an XML sitemap to Google, or an XML file to Google with all of their places, locations. When you're one of these big brands and you've got lots and lots of locations nationwide, chances are that building out these multiple cities or multiple pages for every single one, sometimes it might be a good idea. Sometimes you want to give some local ownership to that business and let the local or regional manager, run that website, etc. And that's a fine way to play it, but you can also play it the way FedEx is playing it here, where essentially they've said, hey, we're going to make fedex.com/office the URL for all of these, and we're just going to make the places page different for each one. So both are options.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. This is a great question coming in. Do you think that having local presence in Google Places is now a new ranking factor in organic results?
Mm-hmm. My personal opinion is maybe, kind of, sort of. And the reason I say that is because my experience has been that it seems to make a positive difference, but I can't be sure whether I'm conflating different variables. And it could be the case, not for sure, but it could be the case here that what's essentially going on is when someone has a places page, they're getting picked up by a lot of local directories and local listing sources, and those places, a lot of them are linking to the source or mentioning them and citing them. And so for that reason, you're essentially getting more links and more references, and that's what's boosting the web rankings. Certainly, though, I mean, best practice, do both. For goodness sake, why not do both, right?
Yeah.
I mean, gives you an extra opportunity to earn more links, to get more traffic, to take up more screen real estate in the results. Just smart business.
Sure. Here's a question coming in from Steve, and he asks, I've seen merge results organic and local in the new places layout. Was this considered in the study? And yes, it was considered in the study. This would be the web results that we use the terminology web results and the terminology places result. I think that's
precisely. Yeah. So if I did a search like what was one of the ones? Baltimore yoga studio. Right. These first 7 listings would be places.
Pointing at the pins that you're seeing A through G. Looks like.
Right. Yeah. These ones right here.
Yep. That's that.
Yep. And then these ones down here would all be considered web results.
Okay.
And you can see that sometimes they mix them up, right? So, Baltimore attorneys. Seattle attorney. So sometimes they'll kind of
Yeah, we saw that earlier, and it would mix the photos in there
right
as
mix
well.
the photos. Well, and sometimes you'll see a few results above the places, and then more web results below. So it can be all over the place. But wherever we saw places results, we mark those as places.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that. I have a question here from Mike. How do we track the performance of business in Google Places? We will not see personalized results that would be different to another person searching for the business. So it's a great question. It's a tricky analytics thing. I know that Google offers some analytics built into Places.
Yeah, the local business center is
Yeah, the local business. And, my opinion on that is the numbers they're okay. It's the start of something, but I haven't been thrilled with it. It's not as great as GA, Google Analytics, but it's a start. And then the personalization thing, I think, is something that everyone's trying to figure out. Like, how do you track that? What does it look like?
Well, and as Google is putting more and more of the rankings numbers into the refer string with Google Instant, it's not 100% yet, but it's something like 50% right now. You're going to see programs do a lot more with that. I mean, one of the things that we're planning on doing with the SEO Moz Pro web app is to collect your rankings, not just by grabbing them from Google, but by grabbing them from your Google Analytics by appending some strings and collecting that data. So you'll be able to see what was my average ranking, my highest ranking, the distribution of my ranking as I got these clicks, how many clicks did I get when I was in position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc.
Okay. Makes sense. Just a reminder to everyone, please use the questions pane that's on your right rather than the chat. The reason we do that is so that we can answer some of it verbally and some of it with other staff members, and just so we can prioritize and make sure everyone gets their question answered one way or another. I'm getting a question from John Cole. Hey, John, how's it going? Does this mean a business can optimize their Google Places name for one service or product name? So let me tie that in with the question before, which is very similar. For that medical center, what if they offer more than physical therapy? How do you optimize the title for multiple services?
Gotcha. So there's a few options here, right? With the medical building, I mean, the thing that we recommended to them is different places pages for different areas of your practice. So if you have one doctor in suite number 101 and the radiology department is suite number 304, have the radiology department have their own places page that you claim, and the address is the same address, suite 304, but the neuroscience department is something else, and the whatever emergency room is something else. Oftentimes, they have their own mailing addresses already, right? Different mail has to go to those different departments and different people in them. So claiming those different business listing pages is probably a really smart idea, not just from a perspective of Google Places ranking, but also from a user perspective. When I search for a Swedish hospital, I don't want to get one phone number in Google Places. I want to, I'm looking for, Swedish Medical Center, right? They've got this one, and I want to see, right, what I really want to see is all of these different ones.
Yeah.
The First Hill, the Outpatient, the Women's Diagnostic Imaging Center, the Cherry Hill location, the Ballard location, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So claiming those different ones, really good idea.
Awesome. And it looks like Andy, who's in chat, also has a lot of other resources on this, some links. So if you're not on chat, it's at bit.ly/SEO Moz chat, no spaces, no caps, and that should help you as well. I think that answers both of those. Next question I'm seeing is from Peter. Seems like most of what I'm hearing about is for brick and mortar businesses with a physical location. Should we do getlisted.org if we have an e-commerce business?
Well,
That's tricky.
it is tricky. I mean, the thing about an e-commerce business is it really depends on, if you're searching, let's say I do a Google search. I'll do a Google search for, new Tsubo shoes, right? I'm not getting geographically or local biased results in here, right? I'm getting geography agnostic results, and so my sense would be if the searches that people are performing are bringing up local types of results, then it could pay for you to, for example, do something like claim a local listing page where your office is, maybe start to expand to new cities and have a person on staff who, runs maybe out of a home office or rents some office space or something where that, and they can be your local service representative. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of those, but because places, the goal of Maps in Places is to list brick and mortar physical locations.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to try and be a listing source for businesses that provide this service in this area but may exist only on the internet.
Yep.
That's sort of what web results are for.
That makes sense. It wouldn't be fair, essentially, if Amazon was trying to compete with all these brick and mortars directly.
Well, and SEO a lot of times isn't about being fair, but I would say, it just might not be in your best interest. It might not be the best use of your marketing time and resources to try and compete in that area. That's my sort of take on it.
Okay, that makes sense. Looks like we got questions. We got just time for a couple more questions here. I just want to remind everyone that as Pro members, you already have access to our Pro Q&A, and so you can ask whatever question you want in there, anything related to SEO, and we'll have people answer it for you. So if we don't get you today, that's another avenue you have that you already have access to.
And of course, this webinar will be up on the site in the next day or two, accessible via SEOmoz.org/pro-webinars.
Perfect. Okay. Do you recommend using 800 numbers for organizations that have multiple locations in many cities?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Just make sure that you don't associate it with your Google Places and your local listing, right? So if I'm FedEx office and I have a local phone number for all my local offices, and I have a 1-800 number for sort of the general FedEx office hotline, I would really, really be careful not to associate that 1-800 number with any of the local listings, right? I want to associate the local phone numbers with the local area code with those listings.
Okay, that makes sense. We have a question from Slava. Do you have any suggestions for content projects like local blogs rather than just local businesses?
Well, so if you're running a local blog, you can certainly get listed in places for at least the location where you run your blog out of, if that's your home and you'd like to. But people probably aren't going to be searching for a ton of that stuff. However, certainly there are usually tons of opportunities for local bloggers. We hosted a local travel bloggers meetup here in Seattle, and there's dozens of these that happen, every month in all sorts of cities around the U.S. There's also tends to be lots of community events or online communities where you can get your site listed, get your blog listed, and get links from. Getting in other people's blog roles and being mentioned by them is certainly a good way to go. But one thing I would say about local blogs is you should not just limit yourself to local sources. If you're blogging about Seattle, you might be very interesting to all sorts of travel sites, people who talk about tourism in Seattle, people who have sites that talk about all the places in the U.S. So I wouldn't just limit yourself to that one geographic modifier. I would certainly do all the classic kinds of link building and link research things. Look at where, go to Open Site Explorer, plug in your competitors, see where they're getting links from, et cetera, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And one last question for you. Why do we choose those particular 20 cities for the study?
So the 20 cities that we chose, we picked them because they were all sort of in the middle of population size for major metros. So I think they were like population, if you ordered all the U.S. cities by population, they were like results number 20 through 40 or something like that.
Okay.
Right? So we essentially picked ones that were large metros but not like the biggest metros so that we'd get a relatively reasonable sample across.
Okay. And any more information on when the next study come out or what's it going to include?
I don't know when it'll come out for sure. And until I talk to everyone else and until we release this study publicly, I can't say for certain what's going to be included in it because I think we want to hear from you what you'd like to see covered. So
I like that. Great. Well, I think that concludes our webinar for today. We're hitting 12:30 Pacific time. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. We really appreciate your time. There was about 500 plus people in this webinar, so we appreciate all of your time. We appreciate everyone taking the time with us today.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and hopefully by next webinar I'll be feeling a lot better. Sorry if I sound like a chipmunk. Hopefully you forgive me.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next time.